Good morning, friends, and welcome to Take Two for this Monday, the 10th of September, 2018. I hope you had a great weekend. I know I really did. Good fellowship with friends, a lot of good food this weekend. It was just one of those really, really nice weekends. But not everybody has great weekends. Not everybody has great days. And that takes me to today's subject. And today's subject is called Feel It to Heal It. Now, this is a basic truth that many of us already know, but sometimes we have to be reminded of just the simplest of truths. It's kind of like knowing deep in your heart that you have loved ones who love you, like your spouse or your children or your parents, but every so often it's nice to hear them say it, isn't it? So this is one of those things we already know, but I'm going to tell you again anyway, because every so often we need to get reminded of it. And let me just say this, there may be a few of you listening and watching out there today who don't even know this truth. So I hope if this is a revelation to you today, you let me know that it touched your heart. Actually, I cannot take the credit for today's message. My sister shared it with me this morning, and I do have to say this, Fran, thank you so much. You are an inspiration to me for many of my take twos. Sometimes something will just pop in her head and she'll shoot me a text or call me on the phone and say, I think this might make a good subject matter. Now, Fran has helped a lot of people, my sister, with she's brought them through a lot of things, and she's worked with people who've been damaged goods and people who have had abuse in their life and that sort of thing, and she's helped walk a lot of people through, including myself, including right now she's helping me walk through the grief process with the loss of our mother and the changes in our lives. So that was just a little rabbit trail. I just got to give her kudos. So that's for you, Fran. But today, feel it to heal it. So this is what she shared with me this morning. She said that we have challenges in our lives like death or maybe childhood trauma, relationship disloyalty. You don't think about that as one of those kinds of trauma you might have in your life, but if you have a good friend who's hurt your feelings, or maybe you've trusted somebody with something and then you find out that they've been disloyal to you, that can be very traumatic as well. And there is no such thing as instant healing. See, this is it. We have to acknowledge that healing is a process, and we also can't feel guilty when we are going through the process of healing. You can't, say you broke a bone in your life. Say you went outside and you fell and you broke your arm, and you went to the doctor that afternoon and the doctor puts a cast on it, and then you wake up the next morning and go, my arm's still broken. I don't understand it. The doctor put a cast on it yesterday. Why isn't it fixed? Well, if that's obviously very silly, because we know that it takes weeks, sometimes months, for a bone to heal. I remember when I stubbed my pinky toe and cracked the little bone in my pinky toe, and you think, oh, how long could that take to fix? Went to the foot doctor, and he said, yep, you sure do. You have a broken toe bone, a little tiny toe bone. And I said, what do we do? He says, well, you use your second toe next to it with this little piece of Velcro, and it's like the other toe is a little splint, and it'll heal it up. I said, oh, well, how long will that take? He said, oh, well, it could just take a few weeks, but it could take up to 6 months. And I'm thinking, for a little teeny bone like that? But see my point? Healing takes time. And in order to heal, let me tell you, while that little toe was healing up, it hurt. It actually, at that tiny little toe, you ever get a toothache? You have one tiny little teeny cavity, and then all of a sudden cold water hits it, or you're eating something and that hits, and and your whole body radiates with pain. In order for that tooth to get healed up, you have to go to the dentist, you got to drill, you got to do whatever you got to do. And that's the whole point I'm making, is you got to feel it to heal it. So how do you do that? Well, what do? I'm going to tell you, first of all, what you don't do. If you're in pain and you're going through trauma and you're going through grief, or you're going through the pain and hurt of relationship disloyalty or things from your childhood, here's what you don't do. And this is what too many people do. They take their little brush and they take their little dustpan, their little emotional brush, and they do this. They just sweep it in and then they just put it aside. Do they throw it out? No. Do they take that dustpan and empty it? No, they just keep sweeping and sweeping and sweeping. That is not the way to deal with it, because you know what's going to happen if you keep doing that? Eventually, this is what it's going to look like. Eventually, you're going to have a big brush and a big dustpan, and you're just going to keep dusting and putting in there and putting that, and come to empty it. No, I'm just going to hold on to this for a little while. Let me just put a little more under here. I'm just going to make believe it didn't happen. I think I'll be an ostrich. Put my head in the ground. Then I just don't even have to make believe. I could just make believe it never really happened. Well, let me tell you a little something, boys and girls. You keep doing that, and that dirt's going to pile up. And it's going to pile up to such ridiculous proportions that you know what's going to end up happening? All of a sudden, it's all going to fall on you. And you're going to look around you, and you're going to be in a room filled with dirty dustpans that have never been emptied. That is not the way to deal with it. That is not the way to deal with it. What you need to do is make sure you get that dustpan emptied. Even if it hurts, especially if it hurts, because when you're healing, you gotta feel it. You've got to go through it. You've got to get yourself a support team. Get yourself, I'm not talking about, people that, oh, you bore them. I'm not saying that, because that just makes it worse. Get people who'll give you some tough love. Get yourself some good counseling. I'm a firm believer in good counseling. I'm going to let you know, folks, that I have joined a grief support group with a local church. It's not even my church. It's a church that has this in place as a program. And a friend of mine who is going through a grief process invited me along. I don't know if I've shared that with everybody or not. I am not ashamed to say that I need some help going through the grief process. There's a number of things that have arisen since my mom's passing. It's kind of like I've got to relive my father's passing again, and several different things. And tomorrow, being 9/11, being September 11th, I'll talk about that tomorrow. But I had a number of people who were on the front lines with the whole September 11th thing that transpired. People I know that died from school and different things like that, and people who lost loved ones, and friends of mine and relatives of mine who were in the buildings when they got hit. That's trauma. But if you never deal with it and it just keeps piling up, you might as well be sitting right there in the middle of ground zero if you never deal with it. Does it hurt? Yes. Does it hurt to go through this? Have I shed tears while I'm going through my grief process? You bet your booties I have, because grief hurts. It hurts. Just like getting a scab on if you fell down and you broke and you scraped your arm, or you scraped your knees when you were kids. I remember I used to do that a lot. I'd fall off my bicycle or whatever, and I'd get a scab. When that skin started healing up and that scab started forming, ow, it was just as painful as when I fell off my bike in the first place. But guess what? Eventually the scab fell off. Might have a little bit of scarring, but guess what? I was healed. Even though, now remember this, I'm going to go back to the Bible for just a minute here. Do you remember when Jesus returned after his death and resurrection, and Thomas didn't believe it was Jesus, and he said, look, and he showed him his palms where the nails had been. See, here's the thing. You may still have scars, but that doesn't mean you're not healed. So it's okay to have a few scars. It's okay to still have a dustpan. It just doesn't have to be full of stuff that you have swept into it. Okay? So if you're sweeping those things into your dustpan, maybe it's time, boys and girls, to say, today's the day I empty it out. I'm going to empty it out, okay? And sometimes we have to throw away things we don't want to throw away. You know, when we were cleaning out my mother's house with 62 years of memories in there, it was some things, I just wanted to hold on to. I absolutely have to have this thing, or, I absolutely have to have this thing, or, and you think about it, and it's like, you know what? Those things you don't need anymore. You've swept them up, now throw them in the trash can. So sometimes we have to do those things, okay? But remember, please, in the words of my sister, sometimes, or actually all the time, you gotta feel it to heal it. If you want to be healed and you want to be whole, Go through the entire process. Don't stop somewhere in the middle. Don't say, oh, it hurts too much, I can't do this. Now, it may take longer for you than it takes for others, and that's okay. I've seen people heal up very quickly from illnesses or from broken bones or from even trauma in their childhood. And some just drag it on because it's taking too long for them to actually go through it, or because they don't want to face it, because they're just too darn busy sweeping it under their carpet or sweeping it into their dustpan. So go be a blessing to somebody today. You know, you might be the only one who is. You might come across somebody today who's walking around with a broom and dustpan in their hand, and I say to you, boys and girls, teach them how very important it is to empty their dustpan, to go ahead and feel the pain, if they have to feel that pain, because it is going to ultimately bring healing. What happened with my baby toe? You know what? It probably took about 4 or 5 months before my toe was fully and completely healed up. But guess what? It's perfectly fine now. That was several years ago, and I've got 10 really good toes now. But it did take a while. Did it hurt along the way? Yes, it did. Have different things in my life hurt as I've gone through a healing process? Absolutely. Am I hurting right now while I'm going through it? Yes. But guess what? I can still have joy. I can still go through my daily routine. It does not have to cripple me. It doesn't have to paralyze me. I can't keep using my grief as an excuse or a reason for bad behavior or bad attitude. Okay, I'm going to have my good days and my bad days. I'm going to have days that are better than others and days that are worse than others. Cut me some slack. I'm going through grief. But I can't keep saying, well, I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm just going to keep sweeping and sweeping and sweeping. No, no, no. That's not the answer, okay? All right, so go be a blessing. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Jeanne Sigler, JeanneSigler. Hit that subscribe button and watch some past Take Twos. I will be joining you tomorrow, September 11th, for a very, very special Take Two in remembrance of that tragedy that happened. But there's good news attached to it, okay? So make sure you tune in tomorrow for that. And of course, as always, please tune into my radio station at WRMZ.org. Ram FM. Great music, great programming. I do love you all very much. And thank you, boys and girls, for your continued prayers as we all walk this journey together, as we all take time to feel it so we can heal it. Bye-bye. I'll see you tomorrow. Love you. Bye-bye.